got one chapter to get through.
I could do that. I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning.
Okay. Because
I not go to sleep last night.
chapter 24 talks about going into Babylon, so I figured I'd set that off and do its own thing with King Nutcracker, and so. All right, welcome to Throttle Up Bible Biker Study. How we doing?
We are,
Yeah.
It's a Wednesday. It's a
Very
day.
nicely.
It's a day ending in Y. Yes.
Kings.
I know we're in Kings. I'm not 100%.
2 Kings 23.
Okay.
With my man Josiah reforming the heck out of it.
2 Kings 23.
We'll be spending a little bit of time in Deuteronomy today, and maybe a little bit in 1 Kings and Ezekiel. But yeah, this is Josiah reforming because he's finally a good king. After Manasseh, after
All the not so gooders.
yeah, Manasseh. What's the other one's name? Amon. Amon only ruled like 2 years. Later on in the Book of Kings, we're going to get to people who reigned 3 months.
Starts getting a little short.
Yes. 3 months and still did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Heck, how much can you do in 3 months? But heck, you know. It must have been substantial to be recorded.
I was about to say, how long did it take before they started making golden calves?
Yeah.
By the time he walked up and down the mountain.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
40 days was the golden calf for
If
Moses.
we learned anything, it don't take long for people to screw up.
Yeah. Oh heck, before we get into this, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time and this place to get together and learn more about you. Lord, please bless the hearts and souls that are here and out on the line that will see this later. And just open up our minds to be able to receive what you're trying to tell us, Lord. And please keep us safe in this cold weather that's coming. And as always, we give you all the glory and honor, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Glory.
Glory.
Oh, yeah. Get that good old tongue-tied. All right. So, last week in chapter 22, Josiah had them clear out the temple and give the money to the workmen to rebuild the temple. And as they were cleaning the temple, wouldn't you know it, they found the book of the law. And then the head priest had it sent over to...
Hide it now.
Heck, no, the head priest read it, and it was like, oh no. Had it sent through one of the servants to Josiah, and read it to Josiah, and Josiah's like, oh no, we haven't been keeping this law.
He tore his clothes off.
He tore his
clothes. Upset.
Yes. And he's like, go inquire of the Lord what we should do. But yes, because he knew that the Lord was very angry. All right. So now he's going to start his reforms. So, chapter 23, verse 1. Then the king sent all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. Oh, and all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem were gathered to him. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and with him all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the prophets, all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all of his heart and his soul, to perform the words of the covenant that was written in this book. And all the people joined in the covenant. So, when it says pillar, it's talking about kind of the vestibule of the temple. So the transitional entryway between the outdoors and the interior space is where everybody was gathered. And essentially they're just renewing their vows after they've strayed. And right after Josiah dies, spoiler alert, they go right back to what they were doing.
Lose the book again.
Gosh. So it's crazy. So, but in the previous chapter, Josiah's doing all this good stuff. The Lord promises Josiah he's going to sweep with his fathers before the real bad stuff happens, aka going into Babylon. Alright, let's see here. Verse 4. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest and the priests of the second order of the keepers of the threshold to bring out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the host of heaven. And he burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried their ashes to Bethel. So, a little backstory on this is the fields of Kidron is where Jeroboam in 1 Kings made the golden calf. And I'm going to turn to that real quick. And that's 1 Kings 12:25. So yeah, verse 25 here, and it'll be through the end of the chapter in 2 Kings 12, or 1 Kings 12. So 1 Kings 12, verse 25. Then Jeroboam built Shimhim, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Shechem? Yeah, that's better. In the hill country of Ephraim, and lived there. And he went out from there and built Peniel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now the kingdom will turn back to the house of David if this people go up and offer sacrifices in the temple of the Lord at Jerusalem. Then the heart of his people will turn again to their Lord, to Rehoboam the king of Judah, and they will kill me and return to Rehoboam the king of Judah. So the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and he said to the people, you have gone up to Jerusalem long enough. Behold your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And he set one in Bethel, and he put the other in Dan. Then this thing became sin, for the people went as far as Dan to be before one. And he also made temples on the high places, and appointed priests from among all the people who were not of the Levites. That's important right there. And Jeroboam appointed a feast on the 15th day of the 8th month, like the feast that was in Judah, and he offered sacrifices on the altar. So he did in Bethel, sacrificing to the calves that he made. And he placed in Bethel the priests of the high places that he had made. And he went up to the altar that he had made in Bethel on the 15th day in the 8th month, in the month that he devised from his own heart. And he instituted a feast for the people of Israel, and went up to the altar to make offerings. Gosh. Oh no, the people will return to the true God. Let us make golden calves.
Golden calves and
again. So, the reason why he tore all that down and took the ashes to Bethel was to desecrate the land and that whole practice, and to really just how do I say it? I don't want to say heap misfortune on it, but just really just ruin it.
Reaping land and sowing sand, sowing it salt, yada yada yada.
Well, coming up a little bit later on, they're going to burn the human remains of the priests of all these areas and spread their ashes in the land to defile it too, to desecrate it. All right. Verse 5 here. Let me find my place. And he deposed the priests whom the kings of Judah had ordained to make offerings on the high places at the cities of Judah and around Jerusalem. Those who also burned incense to Baal, to the sun and the moon, the constellations, and all the hosts of heavens. So this is astrology worship, and all the planets have different personalities, they're like different gods. And I had to look this up because I thought this meant that he killed all the priests, but it doesn't actually say that. To remove from office suddenly and forcefully is what they're meaning by the word deposed there.
oh yeah.
So he might have just been
That's
like,
the way they used to depose kings.
Yeah, it's like mine just says did away with them.
Yeah.
well, I was just like, They probably got killed.
Well, that's usually what happened. They would put them in prison and someone would
Yeah.
take care of them.
So it's kind of interesting there. Verse 6, and he brought out the Asherah from the house of the Lord outside Jerusalem to the brook Kidron, and burned it all at the brook Kidron, and beat it to dust, and cast the dust upon the graves of the common people. Couple things here. So this beating it to dust was pretty much what Moses did with the golden calf in Exodus. Beating it to dust, spreading the ashes. And then the common people, it was done to desecrate the Kidron Valley and the wooden images of the Asherah. So, just kind of disgracing everything. That's the word I was looking for.
Well, what's the deal with scattering the dust on the common people? What they do?
So, Josiah does this to desecrate both the wooden image and the Kidron Valley, which have been the site of idolatry since the days of Solomon.
So the people were bad.
Yeah, okay.
It's like that.
Common
Well,
people.
it just says common
Yes.
people, so.
Not necessarily bad people, yeah.
Yeah, misinformed. Yeah, and it's like that meme of Futurama. You're bad and you should feel bad. Oh. Alright, verse 7. And he broke down all the houses of the male cult prostitutes who were in the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the Asherah. Like, how is this not obvious to them? But then again,
Because they're perverted persons, is what mine says.
but the other thing is, how did the temple get so cluttered that they took the book of the law and just
And
stacked
it got
stuff,
lost.
and then nobody found it for like
It's very easy
50
to do.
years.
You know how long it took me to find a wedding album?
But it's just crazy. And then they finally find the book of the law, and they're like, "Oh no, we should probably do this." Gosh. And male cult prostitutes, I can assume, was just homosexuality. You know,
Paganism.
I don't think many women in that time were going to male prostitutes. I could be wrong. There probably was some of it.
No, you're probably close to right with your first assumption, I would say.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Let's see here. Yeah, let's go into verse 8 here. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had made offerings from Geba to Beersheba. And he broke down all the high places of the gates that were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on one's left at the gate of the city. So, from Gerber to Beersheba is about 6 miles. Yeah, and it's to the northeast of Jerusalem, located on the northern border of Judah and Beersheba. So, my note here says he's bringing worship in line to what is commanded in Deuteronomy 12. And I'm going to turn to Deuteronomy 12, and I believe it's going to be verse 13. You know, the reason why they say the Bible is a living book is because no matter how much you read it, you're going to forget just as much of it. And it's going to be different the next time you read it.
Deuteronomy what?
12. Alright. Deuteronomy 12:13. Take care that you do not offer burnt offerings at any place that you see, but at the place that the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, where you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I am commanding you. So, it's been in a couple different places where the Lord has chose it. So the reference here to the place certainly need not imply that the location of the temple in Jerusalem was known when this text was written. In Israel's history, worship of the Lord was successfully centered in several places. Shiloh and Joshua, Gibeon, as well as later Jerusalem. The stress here is the contrast between the place the Lord your God will choose and the places where the nations serve their gods. So it's calling them to just follow the Lord, really. All right. Any questions so far? All right. Verse 9 here. However, the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brothers. So, they are eligible to go to the main temple to serve, but because of possibly mixed ancestry and not being of the tribe of Levi, because they were elected by Jeroboam, they might not actually be able to do so.
And they might go poof.
Well, they could theoretically serve in secondary roles, but not primary
Right.
roles. But they should. The other context here is that they should be able to take, some of the priestly allowances.
Oh.
But if they're not of the tribe of Levi, they can't. So it's kind of interesting here. And verse 10, and he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, that no one might burn his son or his daughter as an offering to Molech. We've seen this before. Just more child sacrifice, which was expressly forbidden, and one of the reasons why the Lord took out the Canaanites. So, and then verse 11 here, and he removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance of the house of the Lord, by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the precincts, and he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. So, this here is a reference to Ezekiel 8, but these chariots and horses were dedicated to the sun god, so the chariots would have like a sun sign on them, and I believe the horses would have some sort of like sun on it. But I'm going to turn to Ezekiel 8, verse 16 here. Come on.
No.
Yes, thank you, Miguel.
Ezekiel 8, verse 16. Alright. And this is a vision here. And he brought me into the inner court of the house of the Lord, and behold, at the entrance of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs turned, or backs to the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, worshiping the sun toward the east. Then he said to me, have you seen this, O son of man? Is it too light a thing for the house of Judah to commit the abominations that they commit here, that they should fill the land with violence and provoke me to anger still to further anger? Behold, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore I will act in wrath. My eye will not spare, nor will I have pity. And though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, I will not hear them. So, because of this, let's see here, horses. Yeah, miniature clay horses with solar discs on their foreheads have been found in excavations near the temple area. So more idolatry. Alright. Any questions on that part? Alright. Verse 12 here. And back in 2Kings. And the altars on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars that Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, he pulled down and broke into pieces, and cast the dust of them into brook Kidron. And the king defiled the high places that were east of Jerusalem, to the south of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Shamash, the abomination of Moab, and for Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites. And he broke into pieces and cut down the Asherim and filled their places with the bones of men. So he's reversing all the policies of Ahaz, Manasseh, Amon, and Solomon. So then there was kind of a comment here that he was so bold to even go after what the sin that Solomon had committed. So let's see here. Bones of men. Yeah. We can move on to verse 15 here. Moreover, the altar at Bethel, the high place erected by Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, that altar with the high place he pulled down and burned, reducing it to dust. He also burned the Asherah, and Josiah turned, and he saw the tombs there on the mount. And he sent and took the bones out of the tombs and burned them on the altar and defiled it, according to the word of the Lord that the man of God proclaimed, who predicted these things. So, defiling the priests of Jeroboam, and the word of the Lord that it's referring to here is in 1 Kings chapter 13. I hope it's making a lot more sense with this context added in, instead of, it's kind of an easy story to just kind of skip over. So, 1 Kings 13, verse 1. And behold, a man of God came out of Judah by the word of the Lord to Bethel. Jeroboam was standing by the altar to make offerings, and the man cried against the altar by the word of the Lord and said, O altar, altar, thus says the Lord, behold, a son shall be born to the house of David, Josiah by name, and he shall sacrifice on you the priests of the high places who make offerings on you, and human bones shall be burned on you. And he gave a sign the same day, saying, This is the sign that the Lord has spoken. Behold, the altar shall be torn down, and the ashes that are on it shall be poured out. And when the king heard the saying of the man of God, which he cried against the altar at Bethel, Jeroboam stretched out his hand from the altar, saying, Seize him. And his hand which he stretched out against him dried up, so that he could not draw it back to himself. The altar was also torn down, its ashes poured out from the altar, according to the sign that the man of God had given by the word of the Lord. So, that is a very specific prophecy.
Yep.
Josiah's coming. You best, he's going to burn y'all on your altar. All right. Let's see, where was I? 15. Okay. No, I'm a little farther. Yep.
Oh, yep, sorry.
18. Here we go. And he said, actually no, 17. Then he said, What is that monument I see? And the men of the city told him, It is the tomb of the man of God who came out from Judah and predicted these things that you have done against the altar at Bethel. And he said, Let him be, let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet who came out of Samaria. And Josiah removed all the shrines also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made, provoking the Lord to anger. He did to them according to all that he had done at Bethel, and he sacrificed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars and burned human bones on them. Then he returned to Jerusalem. So,
Just like he said.
yep. There's a couple of references here. Deuteronomy 13, verses 6 through 18. So, this time he's not just burning the bones of the dead priests. He's actually sacrificing the living priests. So Deuteronomy 13, verses 6 through 18. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or the wife you embrace, or your friend, who is as your own soul entices you secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, some of the gods of the peoples who are around you, whether near you or far off from you, from one end of the earth to the other, you shall not yield to him or listen to him, nor shall you have pity on him, nor shall you spare him, nor shall you conceal him, but you shall kill him. Your hand shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. You shall stone him to death with stones, because he sought to draw you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And all Israel shall hear and fear, and never do again any such wickedness as this is among you. So that's why they had to be put to death. And then Deuteronomy 17, just a few pages over, verses 2 through 7. If there is found among you within any of your towns that the Lord your God is giving to you, a man or a woman who does what is evil in the sight of the Lord your God, in transgressing his covenant, and has gone out and served other gods and worshipped them, or the sun or the moon or any of the host of heaven, which I have forbidden, which they were all doing, and it is told to you, and you hear of it, then you shall inquire diligently, and if it is true and certain that such abominations have been done in Israel, then you shall bring out to your gates that man or woman who has done this evil thing, and you shall stone the man or woman to death with stones, on the evidence of 2 witnesses or of 3 witnesses. One who is to die shall be put to death. A person shall not be put to death on the evidence of 1 witness. The hand of the witnesses shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people, so you shall purge the evil from your midst. And again, the reason why it's saying that the people who are saying that these people are doing this are going to be the first to kill them.
You pass the first stone down.
Well, it's to deter false witness, because nobody really wants the death of someone else on their hands. All right, jumping back into 2 Kings here. Let's see. Yeah. 21. And the king commanded all the people, keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the covenant. For no such Passover had been kept since the day of the judges who judged Israel, or during all the days of the kings of Israel, or of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was kept to the Lord in Jerusalem. So, and they are commanded to only eat the Passover at the central sanctuary, which is in Deuteronomy 16, verses 1 through 8. Let's see here. Deuteronomy 16, verse 1. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover to the Lord your God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord your God brought you out of Egypt by night, and you shall offer the Passover sacrifice to the Lord your God from the flock or the herd, at the place that the Lord will choose to make his name dwell there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days you shall eat it with unleavened bread, the bread of affliction. For you came out of the land of Egypt in haste, that all the days of your life you may remember the day when you came out of the land of Egypt. No leaven shall be seen with you in all your territory for 7 days, nor shall any of the flesh that you sacrifice on the evening of the first day remain all night until morning. You may not offer the Passover sacrifice within any of your towns that the Lord your God is giving you, but at the place the Lord your God will choose to make his name dwell in it. There you shall offer the Passover sacrifice in the evening at sunset. at the time you came out of Egypt, and you shall cook it and eat it at that place, or eat it at the place that the Lord your God will choose. And in the morning you shall turn and go to your tents. For 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord your God, and you shall do no work on it. So they're finally getting back to how things are supposed to be. People probably aren't happy with that tradition because, it doesn't sound like a feast or it doesn't sound fun. But I will say that Bread of Affliction sounds like an awesome heavy metal band name. I can just imagine it. Alright. Moving on from that one. Verse 24 here. Moreover, Josiah put away the mediums and the necromancers and the household gods and the idols and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, that he might establish the words of the law that were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. So when it says household idols or household gods, they're basically just small idols for the house.
Like little Buddhas.
Yeah, like little Buddhas. Yeah. Little statue of Mary. Yeah, stuff like that. Verse 25 here. Before him there was no king like him who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to the law of Moses, nor did any like him arise after him. That's a great endorsement. Finally. Alright, moving on to verse 26 here. Still the Lord did not turn from the burning of his great wrath, by which his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and I will cast off the city that I have chosen, Jerusalem, and the house of which I said my name shall be there. So all this good still being done, but God said previously that he was not going to turn away his wrath. And that's what we're really going to see in 2 Kings 24 when they start going into Babylon. There still is going to be lasting consequences for the sin. And I've said this before, just because we have forgiveness of sins doesn't mean we have forgiveness of natural consequences or otherwise. Alright. Any questions? Alright, verse 28 here. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and all he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Josiah went to meet him, and the Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo as soon as he saw him. This was a battle to prevent Egypt from reinforcing Assyria. So, verse 30 here. And his servants carried him dead in the chariot from Megiddo and brought him to Jerusalem and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, son of Josiah, and anointed him and made him king in his father's place. Alright, well, God did say he was going to lay him to rest. Verse 31, Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamudal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all of his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah, in the hand of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, son of Josiah, king in his place of Josiah, his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, from everyone according to his assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. So, this is verse 36 here. This is kind of the judgment of Manasseh's sin. And then now we're going into Babylon next week. It's getting good. It's getting bad. Or I should say it went from being really good to now it's getting bad. But the Lord does not take things lightly, I think. Even all the good that we do, that we ever could do to make up for our sins, is never going to be good enough to persuade the Lord. We need a righteousness that's not our own, which is Jesus. Gosh, I'm softballing it. It's Jesus. It's
Sorry,
Jesus.
I just went blank for a second. Just asking me a question out loud.
So, 3 months. Well, I suppose, like Jamie said, it only took 40 days to make the first golden calf. You know, and we read it and we think, like, man, those people are stupid. But we have idols in our own lives.
Yeah.
And we're dumb in our own ways.
Yep.
So we're no better. What do you guys think?
Oh, they're doomed.
They're doomed.
As are we.
Well, I mean,
If not for
Jesus. Jesus. Yes. I think I've heard it said that, you know, the Old Testament is reliable and factual because it's embarrassing. You know, typically people write about things, oh, so-and-so did, everyone's great here. But this is so embarrassing. It's the failings of people over and over and over again, and God being faithful through all of it for his purposes. Like, he could have killed everyone off in the days of Noah, and didn't, because Noah found favor. You know, same thing with Jonah. So but it really makes us realize that we're no better than what we came from. Well, that's going to wrap this up. We're going to go into personal and private prayer request. And I'll see you guys next week, I believe. And see you guys Sunday.